do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob broadcasting from Camp Roberts Hope, telling you to make your teeth nice and white with Pepsodent, and when you listen to the president speak, you'll always have a good map to look at. It's a nice opening line, piecework. Well, here I am at Camp Roberts. Camp Roberts is just about in Central California. Central California, this is where the fog from San Francisco comes down to sneer at the fog from Los Angeles. Oh, you know, huh? I want to tell you I'm enjoying it here. I got a lovely reception. You know how they give important people an escort of 2 officers riding ahead on motorcycles? Well, for me, they had a campfire girl and a pogo stick. And gosh, I had a nice trip up here. You've seen those beautiful streamlined trains. Well, while we were riding up here, 6 of them passed our bus. What a bus. You know those lightning Greyhounds? Well, this was a shuffling Pekingese. And what a rough ride up in that bus. I haven't been bounced around so much since I was a baby and swallowed a Hoover button. But the driver was very careful. Every time he'd drive through town, he'd slow down to 50 and put aside his magazine he was reading. And if it was a big town, he'd make the blonde get off his lap, too. What a trip. I said to the driver, how fast are we going? He said, I don't know. The speedometer doesn't work. It never works unless the wheels are touching the ground. The bus was going along, and all at once we heard a loud explosion. The driver said, must be a backfire. Got no tires. And right at the beginning of our trip, we had a big letter V cut in the side of our bus. And it wasn't for victory. We were making a left turn on Hollywood Boulevard when 6 women drivers flew through us in battle formation. The bus went through a dark tunnel, and for a gag, I leaned over to steal a kiss from Francis Langford. Just then, the bus hit a bump. All I can say is that either I kissed the saxophone player or Francis should stop smoking White Owls. And we had a nice trip. We passed Santa Anita, but some of Bing Crosby's horses are in the cavalry. Really, they're very valuable. The Army figures shooting won't hurt them because they're full of lead anyway. Bing has got a novel idea for bookkeeping. Right before a workout, he pastes defense bonds all over the horse so that it crosses the finish line and the bonds mature at the same time. But anyway, finally we arrived here at Camp Roberts. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, and just as a gag, Skinny's trumpet player stuck his head out of the bus and started to play Reveille. He was buried with full military honors. I got here last night, so I had to sleep in the barracks with the men. You know what barracks are, 2,000 cots separated by individual crap games. I had to sleep with a soldier who'd been on KP. All night long he peeled potatoes in his sleep, and when I woke up, my big toe was ready for cooking. And I want to tell you, after the lights go out, and it's all very dark, in walks the best-liked man on the West Coast. He's really popular. He's the only guy in the Army with neon dice. I got into one crap game, and they let me use my own dice. I won't say I was doing well, but a stranger came along and asked, is this Camp Roberts? And a general pointed at me and said, one more roll, and it will be. Thank you. Oh, it's been a great day here at Camp Roberts for the Army. And you know, we've covered plenty of land, sea, and air since Pearl Harbor and visited many a vital cog in our fighting machine. But tonight we're face to face with #1 boy in the armed forces, the man in the infantry, Johnny Doughboy himself. When you snap on your radio these days, you hear the roaring dramas of men who fly through steel and fire to sink a Jap carrier, or blast a Nazi submarine, then come limping home on a wing and a prayer. But we don't hear much about a guy with a stripe in his sleeve and a gun in his arm who's the biggest hero of them all. He's just plain Joe Infantry, all-around soldier who stands with his 2 feet on the ground and slugs out the final round of every fight. He's the man who stormed to the top of Hill 164, fighting through more hell per square foot than any man has ever known. The fellow who swept down the other side of Tunis and Bizerte, a little closer to Berlin. And he's the guy who tonight is pushing through the red and white snow of Attu Island, a little closer to Tokyo. Just plain Joe infantry. No silver wings, no glamour. But mister, he's the guy who day and night, and I mean every day and night, is taking his country a little closer to victory. Good night, fellas. How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob, United States Navy Hope, telling you sailors to buy Pepsodent toothpaste and turn in your old tube, and your teeth will be so bright you can get a better-looking girlfriend and turn in your old tub.
Well, here I am at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station. What a reception I got here. There were flowers spread all over the ground. And as I stepped out of the car, all the sailors applauded 4 times while I fell deep in the heart of an open manhole. You know, when a visiting celebrity arrives here, they always have a big brass band at the station to greet him. Well, for me, they had a campfire girl playing a harmonica. Nobody paid any attention to me. I said to the commanding officer, "Where's my big welcome? I'm Bob Hope." He said, "Well, we decided to skip it. This is the Great Lakes country. One more drip won't make any difference." I don't see why all the Midwestern people rave about the Great Lakes so much. We have the same thing in California and in midair, too. There were 2 old ladies down here this afternoon. They just saw a sailor for the first time. One of them pointed to the back of his pants and said, "Good gracious, Martha, a girdle on the outside." And these sailors here, I want to tell you, they're real he-men. I saw one sailor, he had so much hair in his chest, every time he swallowed, his Adam's apple took a trip through the jungle. I didn't want him to think I was a sissy, so I walked up to one big sailor and I said, "Listen here, I'm tough." You know what I did to him? I made him carry me to the hospital. Of course, I got a pretty good physique myself. You know, when MGM saw Johnny Weissmuller in a bathing suit, they got the idea for Tarzan the Apes. When they saw me, they got the idea for a Woman of the Year. But a lot of these sailors sleep in hammocks. You know what a hammock is? That's government issue curvature of the spine. My uncle is a great sailor. He still keeps up the old traditions. The other night he went down with his schooner right on the floor of the Clayton Bar. But I like Chicago, though, because they're really baseball mad here. And believe me, they got something to be mad about. And it's really windy here on the shore of Lake Michigan. Skinny Ennis walked out on the beach today and stretched his arms. And 10 minutes later, they shot him down over Gary, Indiana. But I'm sure enjoying this trip in the Hollywood Victory Caravan. Because of the emergency, people are asked to only carry the most valuable baggage on trains with them. And all I'm taking is my pajamas, my wallet, my toothbrush, and spare tire. This rubber shortage is really terrific. I stayed at the Ambassador Hotel last night, and during the night, a guy broke into my room, jacked me up, and stole my hot water bottle.
Well, everyone has treated me swell here. I hadn't been here 2 minutes before they were begging me for my signature. And I'm still trying to find out who had me sign up for the Japanese Navy. But I met an admiral here, and I met an admiral, and I told him I was sent here to bolster up the morale of the sailors, the morale. He took one look at me and said, "Who sent you, the Marines?" I must tell you, I saw a sailor and a Marine pass each other in the street today. The Marine said, "How do you do? Good day." And the sailor tipped his hat and said, "Good day to you, sir." Gee, it was a wonderful movie. But I do like these sailors. I like these sailor uniforms. One sailor's pants were so tight across the back, they looked like Edward Arnold across the front. But I love being here at the Naval Training Station. I told one of the officers my program must be well-liked because I'd been invited back for the second time.
I asked what the Navy liked best about my broadcast, and he said, your listening audience. Yours is the only program that can be broadcast from the Naval Training Station and still have the whole thing remain a military secret.
Thanks all you boys for the Navy here at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station. Yes, sir, the good old Navy. In the art galleries, they have paintings that symbolize America. A farm in Ohio, Coney Island on Sunday, and smokestacks above Pittsburgh. But the best action picture of America today is the Navy doing its stuff on the road to victory. It's a long road that leads from New York to Berlin, from the Golden Gate to Tokyo, and there's water on both sides and air above it. And that's where you'll find the Navy, night and day. Like the Army throws a bridge across a river, the Navy throws a bridge of ships and planes across an ocean. And the men in blue work with the men in khaki, not only hand in hand, but heart to heart, for they've been through part of hell together. Yes, sir, and if we work in the factory and on the farm like our sailor boy worked to cover that first beachhead on the fortress of Europe, they'll come back from that hell a lot sooner. You know, George Washington said, without a decisive naval force, we can do nothing definite. But with it, we can do everything honorable and glorious. Good night, men.
Good night, fellas.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob Camp Pendleton, Marine Base Hope. Telling all you leathernecks to use Pepsodent because your girl won't let you squeeze her if you've got vacancies under your beezer. Well, here I am at Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton. That's a Marine expression meaning you can stop trying to get a 6-hour pass. We were shipped out 3 weeks ago. Oh, you tourists. Camp Pendleton is located 35 miles from San Diego, 110 miles from Los Angeles, and a 72-hour pass from the United States. And Pendleton is so big, it's the only camp in the country where you can practice amphibious landings on either the Atlantic or the Pacific. I won't say this camp is spread out, but back in the interior, they just discovered 2 groups of Tito's partisans. One Marine here captured 3 Japs without ever getting off the base. And these Marines get lots of furloughs to go home. There's only... Well, that's what the man said. There's only one little hitch. All the transportation is routed through Tokyo. And the country around here used to be full of cattle rustlers, but they got all jobs now as poker dealers in Oceanside. And these Marines are the toughest guys I ever saw. They don't bother using a stairway. They just knock out the posts and catch the second floor as it comes down. I shook hands with one of them, and he was very nice. He said if I made him laugh, I could have my hand back again after the show tonight. Yes, sir, these boys don't bother to comb their hair in the morning. They just stick their heads up out of the infiltration course and let the bullets take it from there. Of course, you civilians know what an infiltration course is. That's the have and have not, depending on how close you keep it to the ground. Camp Pendleton is about 100 miles from Hollywood as the crow marches. He was drafted, too. This camp is situated on an old ranch, and it's really not much change, from cowhounds to chowhounds. And this is an awfully big camp, but the guys are only kidding when they say you have to fly an airplane nonstop to get from the barracks to the front gate. They know darn well you have to land twice to refuel. You know what a Marine is? That's a booby trap that's on our side. And boy, what rugged guys these Marines are. Today, one of them pulled off his shirt, handed me a tattoo needle, and said, "Okay, make with the autograph, boy." I shook hands with one Marine, and when I got my hand back, there were only 4 fingers. I said, "What's the ID?" He said, "Keep moving, bud. There's a 20% withholding tax." And these Marines stick together and have a wonderful esprit de corps. Esprit de corps, that's a French expression meaning see if she's got a sister. You know, during the time they stay in boot camp, these Marines have to forget completely about girls. In fact, at midnight, the sergeant goes through the barracks with a flashlight, waking up anybody that has a smile on his face. And these Marines here are really tough. You should see the hair on their chest. There's one fella here with so much hair in his chest, his captain insists on him getting into crap games. He's the only one in camp that can roll the dice and sweep the barracks at the same time. And listen, all this talk about sailors and Marines not getting along isn't true. Why, when I arrived in camp, they showed me a sailor who hadn't stolen... I'll be back. Wait a minute. I'm here. Why, when I arrived in camp, they showed me a sailor who had stolen a Marine's girl 2 weeks ago, and the sailor was just sitting there in a chair smiling. Honestly, it was the best embalming job I ever saw.
Thanks, all you Marines. Folks, if you read up on the pioneers, you'll find they were plenty tough, but 5% were tougher than all the rest. These were the leaders, rugged characters, human bulldozers, the first to tackle the wilderness and first to clear the ground on which America was built. They knew that life and freedom were the same thing, and you had to fight to get it and keep it. So they never learned to lose a fight. And whenever they finished one, they'd spit on their hands and say, "Well, who's next?" Yes, sir, if you'd have put the right uniform on those guys, you'd have sworn they were U.S. Marines. The same old bloodline is on Iwo Jima tonight. Iwo Jima translated as Rock Island, but every Marine knows it really spells hell. It's the front porch of Tokyo with a death's head on the welcome mat. It's volcanic dust that bites the lungs, sulfur smoke that burns them, hot lava and hot lead. The world's toughest fight. By comparison to Iwo, 2 days in the real hell would be like a weekend at Lake Arrowhead. You know, it took Betsy Ross just a bit of cotton bunting to make the first American flag. And, mister, let's never forget what it's taken the Marine Corps to hoist that bit of bunting on Iwo Jima. Good night, fellas.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob Coast Guard Hope telling you to put Pepsodent on your brush and use plenty of traction, and none of your teeth will be missing in action. Yes, sir, tonight we're broadcasting for the Coast Guard. These are the boys who guard the coast, and they really guard it. Only trouble they have here today is finding it. Yes, sir. We've had some overambitious dew falling out here for the past few days. The Chamber of Commerce wouldn't even admit it was raining until the SS Arkansas anchored at Sunset and Vine this morning. But it's great to be here with the Coast Guard. That's a fighting group, and efficient. This Coast Guard outfit did such a great job during the Prohibition rum running days that W.C. Fields almost died of malnutrition. And anything in the ocean not signed up with the Allies hasn't a chance with the Coast Guard. Every morning, whales come in to report their positions. Coast Guardsmen are always with the invasion forces. In fact, by the time the Marines get a situation well in hand, the Coast Guard is charging tourists 10 cents apiece to sail by and look at it. Yes, sir. I know what side my audience is buttered on. And the beach patrol of the Coast Guard live in little huts right down on the beach, and it's very convenient. Every time the tide comes in, they get their laundry done, whether it needs it or not. And they don't call them huts, they call them hutlets. A hutlet, that's sort of an open-air oxygen tent. Each man patrols 10 miles of beach. and they pass by so regularly, each clam on the West Coast pulls his neck in on the hour and a half hour. And I don't know if those guys down there on the beaches get lonesome or not, but one fella spent 3 nights in a row trying to date his own echo. I asked one guy on the beach patrol if he had to walk very much, and he said, I don't know, but when I enlisted, I had feet. And the men on the beach patrol do a lot of rescue work, too. One sentry heard a girl yell, help, help, and he ran over, but before he got there, the guy drove away. I have a fast car. I went for a ride today in a Coast Guard cutter, and it was a trifle rough. A trifle rough, that's a nautical expression meaning very invigorating, and don't crowd, I was at the rail first. I won't say there was much of a breeze, but it was the first time I ever spit in my own eye. And they let me shoot one of their 5-inch guns. I don't want to brag and say I hit anything, but you know the City Hall here at Long Beach? Well, it looks just as nice in San Pedro.
Yes, sir, men of the Coast Guard, that wraps it up for now. It's been great visiting all you fellas. You know, Coast Guard has always meant tough men and tough little cutters who tackle the oceans on stormy nights to rescue shipwrecked sailors, who bust up icebergs in our shipping lanes and keep friendly beacons burning in lighthouses from New England to the Golden Gate. Always a great name from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Today it's a great name from Italy to the Marshall Islands. For it's the Coast Guard that races up to those beachheads to deliver the fighting Marines, and the Coast Guard that has kept Uncle Sam's harbors free of major catastrophe the past 2 years, guarding harbors and vessels against accident and sabotage to set an amazing wartime record of port security and speed shipping on its way to the battlefronts. And it's the Coast Guard that's in there beside the tankers and troop ships, tossing ash cans in the U-boats and taking on anything the enemy puts in their way. You know, they got a little motto in the Coast Guard, Semper Paratus, always ready. And mister, whenever there's a tough job to do, you'll find the Coast Guard always ready and willing and able to do it. Thanks, fellas. So long, boys! Well, this is Bob Hope. Anybody mind if I sing my signature? Thanks for the memory of every Coast Guard son who made the Nazi run, of war machines and tough Marines to set the rising sun, to the soldiers, to the sailors, to each man behind the gun. We thank you so much.